Hello. How's it going, Anthony? It is
Oh,
such
hey,
a pleasure to have you here tonight.
thank you, thank you. I do see live, so we're live, so let's go. I'm ready to
Yeah,
roll.
I'm just gonna double check that on my phone,
Okay,
make sure that we are live, and then we can just start.
good.
Yes, we are. Here
All
we
right,
go.
here we go.
So, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I was so excited to do this talk, so I do appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, um, I want to begin with just setting the intention that, like we're really here to talk about a topic that, a lot of people are usually curious about
Hmm.
and really bring in something new to it, new tools and information, that tangible things that people can take away with them.
Right.
And I'm checking on my phone. If anybody has comments or questions, we'll answer them right here. But I
Okay.
just wanted to just dive right in. This whole thing started because I made a post on Facebook around sacred sexuality, and you and I just started off a conversation,
Right. Right.
and then
Yeah.
and here we are.
I know. Here we are. Boom, like that. And
Exactly.
it's a fun topic. It's an interesting topic, and I think it's a necessary topic for us to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Sexual energy, like we were discussing before, is the largest source of energy that we carry in our bodies.
Right.
And it's really valuable and important for us to know how to engage with that energy, right?
Right. Right.
So, and that's why we're having this conversation. Because, well, the first question that I want to ask you is just give us a little bit of background about you. I want to know about you. Tell me.
I hate talking about myself, but all right. So, former therapist. I was a therapist for like 12 years, psychotherapy, mixing in
Mhm.
hypnotherapy, and that really helped out a lot. Uh, got burnt out, so I took a break from that. Became a life coach. That kind of took off. Um, got tired of that. And 2012 is when my life really changed. And
Mhm.
yeah, dad died, long-term relationship broke apart. So I moved to San Diego, California
Okay.
to reinvent myself and
Mhm.
just kind of became a business coach because I know how to do business as well. So did that for a while. And every time I started doing something, I got unsatisfied or just was not satisfied enough, even though I
Mhm.
would have success. And then after the business coach, I was like, oh, what do I do now? And of course, life happened where I quit my job, a really good job, in 2015 to write a book, The Age of
Mhm.
Consciousness. So it was supposed to take me like 6 to 8 months, and wound up taking me almost 2 years, and drain my savings and everything else. And life was getting really crazy for me. Like, what the heck is going on? And just kind of found myself reinventing myself. Life just kind of took me on a different course that I never thought I
Mhm.
would be at. And then
Mhm.
finally, when I was like, okay, enough of that. Like, what do I do next? I heard you got to go back and write this book. And
Mhm.
that's the book that I just completed this week. And
Yes, congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. It's been so much hard work. It's called The Age of Consciousness. So,
Yes.
and I do talk about sex, but I talk more about relationships there, divine relationships. And so
Mhm.
this is just right up my alley.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
So, you know, thank you for being here. And, everything in our life journey really teaches us something. So
Hmm.
it's really incredible. Thank you
Thank
for sharing that. So I want to jump in the first question.
you. Hmm.
And that is, what do you think is the biggest challenge or problem that we have in sexuality, around sexuality today?
Yeah, I think the biggest problems is the hangups. We talked about this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So many people do
Really
have.
incredible. Thank you for sharing that.
So many people. Yeah, it's okay. So many people. So many people have different hangups. I mean, and it's one of those things that you may have them, but you don't really know that you have them. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that we need to really sit down and really analyze what our relationship with sex. So we talked about people walking away from this talk getting something tangible, and I hope people
Yes.
write this down. Is just sit down and say, okay, what does sex mean to me, and just put a line down. Is it positive? Is it negative? How do I
Mm-hmm.
feel about it? Start off with that. What does sex mean to me? You know, if
Mm.
these things are not clear for you, you're just kind of going on automatic pilot. So I think that's the biggest thing is getting rid of these misconceptions, getting rid of the baggage that we have, you know, whether it's from
Mm.
religion, society, parents, you know what I mean? Like there's so much baggage when it comes to sex, men and women, you know, and it's all different. Men have different perspective than women do. You know, for men, it's you know, it's the machismo, it's pornography, it's you know, all about me, and the more women I sleep with, the more manly I am. So we got to clear all that stuff out.
Mm.
So I think that's where it needs to start.
That's powerful. So what I'm hearing from you is really, you know, do the soul searching for oneself to really figure out like what are the misconceptions I may have around sex. What does sex mean to me? You know, what stories did I grow up with when it comes to sex? You know, like what do I want to create for the future? And like determining if there's any shame or anything that's there for someone in around sex and
Right.
sexuality, to just clear all those blockages before like really moving forward powerfully.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it has to be more intentional. You know what I mean? We have to kind of know what we're doing. We're kind of still having sex like we're teenagers in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
just not going to lead to growth. You
Mm.
know, so we have to be more intentional, more mindful as to what we're doing.
So so not just dealing with the attraction, that initial attraction you have with someone, and just going with the flow and just, you know, seeing where it goes.
Right. That attraction is like fishing. You know, you're like
Yeah.
going and you're kind of wheeling it in.
Yeah.
You're not going to know what you're getting. You know what I mean? It's going to look like a good fish, but you don't know what you're really getting. So that attraction has to be like, you know, second or third. A lot of times we're attracted to things that we're lacking inside of ourselves. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Or you mean want to sleep with someone who's you know, good looking because that's going
Mm-hmm.
to make me feel good. That
Yeah.
shouldn't be the attraction. The attraction should be a lot deeper than that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, that attraction should be magnetic, where wow, you know, you feel like electric, you feel alive around that person.
So
You
more
know,
like at a soul level, as
what?
opposed at a soul level, as opposed to just based on looks
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah.
you know, and that's the thing. I remember I did a talk on a radio, and the
Mm-hmm.
host was like, "Oh, you know, I want to get with Heather Locklear," you know, and you know, I'm like, well, you know, it's great because he again, Heather Locklear, I represented the ideal woman back then. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but again, it's one of those things. Heather Locklear and everyone else who's very attractive usually has been divorced. There's someone out there who's like, you can have her, you know what I mean, or you can have him. That those looks wear off after a while. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to go beyond looks. After a while, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. And we've all been there. I mean, I'm sure everyone has had a mate that you felt was very attractive. Afterwards, you're like, oh, see you later, man. Like, don't even come. That attraction wears off. It goes away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what does that tell you? That tells you that attraction is something that's very fleeting. It's something that's very in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know.
and something that you touched on, that was also valuable, you know, that we sometimes feel those type of attractions because we see in somebody else something that's going to validate us or
Yes.
make us feel better or feel a void. So
Right.
can you say more about that? Because I find that for women specifically, um, there's a lot of, you know, when we have lack of self-love, we seek validation outside.
Absolutely.
And if, you know, if that guy all of a sudden doesn't like us, or then we then look at ourselves like there's something wrong with me, or there's something lacking in me, and that's why, you know, he wasn't attracted to me, or this didn't work out. So can you say a little bit more about that, like walking away from that validation, that type of validation, as opposed to having a more spiritual and soul to soul connection, at a
Yeah.
deeper connection?
Good. Yeah. And I like to use the term void. It's so true. Everyone has a void in them
Hmm.
if you haven't done the work. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And you got to find out where that void is because that's what we're trying
Hmm.
to fill. You know what I mean? For women, again, it could be the father, you know, that relationship that they're trying to recreate or trying to have in a man a lot of times. For men, it's really a lack of self-confidence. You know what I mean? Like really not knowing what a real male is or man is. You know, society tells you a man looks like this, but then you do all these things and you don't still don't feel like a man. So you try to do more and more of those things and you still don't feel like a man because it's not those things. So for men, that's the void too. You know what I mean? But it all comes down to, again, if you can't recreate your past. You know, you can't get your father to love you the way you want him to. You know, for a man, he can't get that void to be filled. He has to fill it himself, and women have to fill it themselves as well. Do you know what I mean? So a man has to redefine who he is outside of just sleeping with women, or the more women you have, the more manly you are, the more attractive. That has to be fixed somehow.
Yeah.
From self-love, and for women, the same thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I just want to say hi to a few of the people that have joined us. Shirley. Hi, Shirley. Hi, Sydney.
Hey,
hi, Karina. Francesca. Kimberly.
Wow.
Thank you, ladies, for joining us. You touched on something that I want you to go deeper on.
Okay.
You know, and that is like really defining, you know, society defines for us what a man's roles are, what women's roles are, and there's all these stereotypes. And then we grow up confused as to, you know, who we truly are, unless we do the work.
Right.
The work to find ourselves and to really learn to love ourselves the way we are and the way we're not, and the work to heal our past traumas.
Absolutely.
Right? So that we can show up as a whole human being in a relationship.
Absolutely.
So what does it look like, you know, for my ladies out there, what does it look like to be in the presence of a whole man, of a man who's done the work, of a man who, like, what are some of the characteristics, some of the ways of being that somebody who has done the work, a man who has done the work, what does that look like? Because some of us don't know.
Okay. So, so you're asking me as if I know, right? No, just kidding.
You know more than me.
Well, yeah, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. You know, and you know right away, because the man is well-rounded. You know what I mean? He really understands you. And that may be shocking to have a man who really understands a woman and what she's going through, and knows how to handle those situations. That's part of being a well-rounded man. Another part is that you feel safe around him, no matter what, all the time. You know, he and also how he treats other people. That's another huge thing. You know, so you're gonna get a different type of experience when you're with the man who has done the work. It's night and day. It really is. You know what I mean? And you also get to grow, and that's the biggest thing, is that being with that person is going to help you grow, and it's going to help you grow because he's going to help you grow. It's not you're going to grow, you know, in spite of him. Like, you know what I mean? The stuff he puts you through, you're going to grow. Yeah, that's that part of growing. But then there's another part of growing where it's nurturing. You know, when you're with him, you become a different person. People notice that. They're like, wow, you know, you really seem more put together. You seem happier. That's kind of what it's like to be with a man who has done the work. And he should keep doing the work. If he's stopped, then that's not good either. You know what I mean? Because the work never stops. All right. Yes. You know, and he's not here to fix you. He's here to be with you and help you grow, and vice versa.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. And always remember this. I just want to say this, though, that we're always helping each other grow. It's not just a one-sided thing, you know, and if it is one-sided, then there's an imbalance, and that's not really a good relationship. You know, so.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you. I really see, like, for myself, the difference, you know, in dealing, like, friends, people that I've dated, really when I'm dealing with somebody who comes from having done the work to really love and respect himself and honor himself, he just shows up really differently.
Yeah.
And it is about coming together and really standing for each other's developments, really standing for each other's growth.
Absolutely.
Right? There's no fear of the other person leaving or losing something, because it doesn't come from attachment. It actually comes from choosing to be committed.
Right.
Right. So when it comes from that space, like you said, you can really feel like that has been my experience as well. So
yeah. And, you know, it's one of those things you look forward to being with that person.
Oh, yeah.
You can just do nothing and have the best time. I mean, that's when you really know it's really on, you know, and it has to be a vibration. It has to be a vibrational match.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everything is just better, you know?
And you feel like as a woman, you feel so safe, like you can
Yeah.
truly be yourself with that person, and you can be truly vulnerable.
Yes.
And like I mean, you can cry, you can have snots flying everywhere, you can have no makeup, like you just
Right.
really be with everything that you are and show up, um even in your dark moments,
Hmm.
and be able to say what you're dealing with as a human being, and have that other person support you, because like you said, it is nurturing. It comes from a nurturing space, because I find that a man that is whole, he's balanced with his feminine and masculine
Mhm.
energy. There's a wholeness to it,
Right.
for men and women.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with that.
And you said something that's key too, is that they have your back. They always have your
Always have
back,
your
and
back.
that's the key. You know.
Yes.
So I told you I have a little secret for you
All
guys
right.
about
Yeah,
about sex. So you guys here, because we want to really, this is about sex also, right? So
absolutely.
I'll ask you, what does sex mean to you? Because we should have started. We need to talk about that. What does sex mean to you?
So for me, sex is spiritual.
Hmm.
It's a really a deep connection and intimate um, experience with another human being. And for me, it's a lot more than just the physical aspect of it.
Right.
For me, it's more mental. It's more like the deeper conversations, is getting to that place of really being able to see another human being, being able to see another human being's soul,
Okay. Good.
and then discovering another human being's soul. It all complements with each other, and it just creates this powerful dynamic of flow. For me, a sexual experience is flow of energy. there's
Good.
no there's no like taking. It's just like it's a divine flow, and it's beautiful, and you feel it. It's this incredible energy that flows. That's
Good.
the
Good.
best way that I can describe it, like a spiritual experience.
I think you hit it on the head. It is a divine experience, because that's one
Mhm.
of the most powerful forces we talked about in this universe. It
Mhm.
creates life. There's nothing else that can do that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? With two people coming and you creating a third person, like that's powerful and that's divine. But we can't have a divine sex until we're divine ourselves.
Mhm.
So you can't just say, oh well, sex is divine. You have to embody that first, and that other person has to embody that first as well. So I wanted to show you a demonstration about why it's so important to treat sex more divinely as opposed to just sex. So here, wait. All right, there it is. All right, so
Yeah.
this is an adapter. Everyone knows this, right?
Yep.
In electrical engineering, they call this the male because it has these prongs over here. And when
Okay.
you stick this into a socket, right,
Mhm.
that creates a connection. And what
Yes.
happens is that electricity flows, and electricity is a term of energy, right? So
Yes.
it's the same thing for human beings, the male, and then you have the female, right, plugged in. Even though we call this sex, there's still that energy flow. And
Mhm.
people don't realize this is very powerful, because
Mhm.
what happens is that you're picking up energy from the male, and the female is giving it back to the male. So it's
Mhm.
really, really important for us to be careful who we sleep with, because you're picking up their energy. And that's really, really important. And they're picking up your energy as well. And what
Mhm.
happens is that you wind up carrying that energy around with you. If you have shadows where it comes to sex, that's just going to magnify your shadows when it comes to sex. So you're going to feel like heavy, weighted down, depressed if you're sleeping with the wrong person, and vice versa. This goes two ways, but for women especially, because this
Yeah.
is going in. Okay, so
Yeah.
she's receiving it and then she's
Mhm.
giving it back. All right.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the best thing I could say is if you're going to sleep with people, just try to sleep with the best person you can. And you'll know if you stay open. You'll know after you slept with someone, like, oh, that wasn't the most fun experience.
I recently heard somebody say, you know, when you can really tell and see how if you're dealing with your sexuality in a powerful way, like how do you feel after?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, like that's a very powerful way to determine,
Yeah,
because after you should still be
right.
energized, and you feeling alive. You have a sense of aliveness. you
Absolutely.
have you have this energy flow. It's just exhilarating.
Yep.
It's because you were just connected to source, you were just connected to another human being, right? There was a high level of intimacy.
Mhm.
So the experience after, it still overflows.
Right. Well, it should. It
It
should.
should.
It
and
should.
and if you feel negative or lethargic, or like, I don't know if this should have happened, or there's any indication there, then that's a key to tell you, really, that you should be examining, who you're sleeping with.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because some people take your energy, they will take your energy,
Hmm.
and that's not good. They'll suck it. And also depending on, where their chakras are, where your chakras are, if you have a blockage, it's going to stop there. For women, it's the sacral, it's the womb, you know.
Yes.
So you're going to hold on to that negative energy there. For guys that are coming from the root chakra, sex, if your chakras are open, you're having good sex, it should go all the way up through your crown
Yes.
chakra and up. That's
Yes.
what they call Kundalini. And that's where you feel like, oh my God, you're not just orgasming with your physical
Hmm.
body, your physical parts, but it's your whole body
Your whole
orgasm.
body.
You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But if you have a blockage, then you're gonna feel that. But a lot of people are blocked up anyway, and that's the thing is that,
Yeah.
oh, it feels good. I got some last night. You know what I mean? And then after that, it's just gone. You're waiting for the next time. So that's when it's just purely physical. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. We're having some people are making comments,
Cool.
which is great. Oh, Francesca says sex is meditation. Can you say something about that?
I like that. I like that. You
Isn't
can
it
use,
beautiful? It is
yeah,
meditation. It's a
it
beautiful,
is.
and it's healing.
And it is
It's
healing. It
very
is
healing.
healing. But always remember, it takes two.
Yes.
You could have a 2 minute meditation. That's not the best.
So can you say, because not everyone who's watching, um, you and I, we, like, I personally have done work when it comes to, more a spiritual way of being when it comes to sexuality, and I
Right.
know you've done work too. So can you explain the difference, and can you talk about, for example, porn or 50 Shades of Grey, or like
Mhm.
all the different ways that we depict sexuality out there, and not to say that it's wrong or anything, but what's the difference between that and how it's depicted, specifically in porn, compared to, having a really incredible sexual experience that's spiritual, where, the one that gets talked about, where women actually are able to experience, orgasms or multiple orgasms, or
Mhm.
like a different, like it's an incredible experience.
Right. And I think you did a
And the
good
same for
job.
men.
No, you did a good job in terms of separating the two because it is
Hmm.
almost like a dark side and a light side. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And I would say porn is more on the darker side. And some
Hmm.
people like to explore that. Some people like to
Hmm.
live in that space. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But when you're living in that space, that means you have some shadows in you that need to be fed. And that's what porn does. It feeds those dark shadows. You know what I mean? And at some point in time, if you're gonna have to evolve beyond that because you can get
Hmm.
stuck in that lower, and again, it's a lower region energy. It's in the lower chakras, so that stays there. That's what porn does. It feeds those shadows. You know what I mean? And that can go on. I mean, you could be so deviant with porn. There's so many crazy things you can do with that. That is just like,
Hmm.
whoa, that is like crazy. I didn't know you could do that with sex. You know what I mean? But that's that dark exploration. 50 Shades of Grey, I think it touched on a lot of women's dark shadow side, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And it's not as bad as porn, I think. And if you want to explore that, that's okay. But I
Hmm.
would say explore that, but use that to elevate you into a higher state. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
experience that, feel that, and say, "Ooh, how did that feel? What did that
Yeah.
bring up for me? You know what I mean? Did that remind me of something? Because I don't know about you, I don't like to be in bondage in any way.
Uh-huh.
But if it's once in a while, I guess. But if it's something that you really get off on, there's something deeper psychologically that needs to be healed. You know what I'm saying?
For me, what I like to differentiate is the fact that, that in porn there's a lot of it that is staged.
Oh yeah.
So for people to just have the understanding and the knowing that a lot of it is staged, like, some of the pleasure that women are supposedly having in it is
Yeah.
not necessarily there.
Right.
um
Right.
that you can do those things and have pleasure, but
Hmm.
it takes it's not just that in itself. It actually takes much more than that, you know, to get to those levels,
Right.
right? So for me, it's really important for people to understand that, you know, there's a camera there, they stop, they change
Hmm.
things, they like
Hmm.
clean things up, they like,
Sure.
a lot of crazy stuff that that happens to
Right.
get the shots and to get everything done specifically to create that fantasy of what it looks like, right?
Right.
And so like for me, what matters is that people have that awareness, right?
Mhm.
From what I've learned from my own body, from reading books and everything, you know, we women, we don't just go all in and be like, in 5 minutes we're ready to go. We
Right.
require, you know, foreplay. We require intimacy, other levels of intimacy other than just the sexual component, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
And so, it's really important to touch on that, I think,
Yeah.
for people to understand.
Well, porn is like a one-way street. There's a
Yeah,
giver and then there's a taker, and that's it.
yeah.
There's no exchange. You know what I mean? And it's
Mm-hmm.
really purely physical. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's like, how crazy can you go? You know. And what happens is that a lot of guys get conditioned to thinking, well, that's how you make love, or that's how you have
Yeah,
sex. And
guys, no.
yeah, yeah, once in a while or whatever,
None
it's
of
good.
you.
But if you got to know how to, be well rounded. You know what I mean? Yeah, but a lot of guys don't. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's the biggest problem is that the porn is a big, big problem in our society. And now with the internet, I heard it's just exploded even more because it's so easily accessible. So how do guys learn how to make love when they've been watching porn for 20, 30 years or whatever? You know what I mean?
So
Like
you
you
just said
cannot.
something powerful. So what's the difference between having sex and making love?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like I said, that sex is just the physical component, the energy exchange. But making love is when you're actually creating, this environment, a loving environment. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, through action. That's really hard to do. You know what I mean? So that could be just it touching. That could be how you look at someone. That could be how
Mm-hmm.
you hold someone. That could be how you
Mm-hmm.
smell them. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
creating that loving environment. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just just getting physical. It's the
Mm-hmm.
whole ambiance. It's the whole aura. You
It's
know.
the conversations, the deep conversations, the being vulnerable,
Yeah, it could
all of
start with
that,
that.
right?
Yeah, it could start with that. It could start with lighting candles and putting music on. You're creating a loving environment where love is all around. And then the sex is just part of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what lovemaking is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's taking your time and saying, after this, you're gonna feel loved. After this, I'm gonna feel loved. That's really the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know.
And the other thing too, thank you for that. The other thing too that I want to say is really, it's really about communication. You know, you can choose to do whatever, pleasures you.
Hmm.
However, having that communication, that understanding, those agreements ahead of time, I think really make a huge difference in creating safety and trust, which are really important.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's all of that. I mean, they always tell you foreplay starts way before
Hmm.
foreplay. You know what I mean? So, and again, it's one of those things where you are communicating and you're feeling that vibe and you're feeling like, oh my God, I really want to, go home tonight, and get intimate. So it starts with that, and yeah, it definitely starts with communication for sure.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing I want to ask you, um, there's a lot of conversations going around when it comes to energy retention and using our sexual energy to transmute it into other things in our lives. For
Yeah.
example, our businesses or finances, anything we want to manifest in life. Which, yeah, it's very powerful because it's the most potent energy that we possess, and it's a creative energy. It actually
Right.
creates. Can you touch on for men, specifically in regards to semen retention?
Yeah.
What is that, and why is that important? And does that take away from the pleasure? Like, come on, you're asking guys not to do that? What's there then?
Yeah, that's a new thing that's going on right now, is that semen retention thing,
Yeah.
and guys are saying it clears up their skin, it makes them more muscular, they can think better, which only makes sense. I guess I can get that, what I mean? There's some that say that does work, some say that doesn't work, but then it's again, and we talked about this a little bit, it's one more thing that guys have to really think or worry about, what I mean? But I don't think it's a bad thing, because it's almost like prolonged ejaculation, what I mean, where you're kind of holding off, what I mean. But the semen retention is when you're actually taking that and sending that energy back up through you and up into your third eye and through your crown chakra and stuff like that. So you're not letting it spill out, but you're bringing it back in. So it's kind of like Kundalini in a sense, but for guys, it's really about. I think the good thing about it for guys is that it's learning for them to master themselves. I think that's a good thing. But I would say for guys, don't go in there like with that on your mind, like, oh, I can't come. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things. But yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, it's a hot topic right now going on around. And yeah. I think that if they're practicing that, then they're probably not masturbating as much, or having sex on their mind as much. And it becomes more meaningful. So I think it has some good benefits to it.
And from what I understand, also the energy retention, because when you ejaculate, like a lot of energy leaves your body, right? So it leaves you still energized, and you retain a lot of that
right
in your body.
And I'm going to say this, because there's always two sides to everything, right?
Yeah.
There's also where if you're making love or having sex and you're coming and you're doing it right, then you're not drained. If you're drained, that's because you're holding so much tension and stuff inside your body. It's like, oh, and of course you're going to be tired after that. You know what I mean? Because you just release a lot of tension. It's not just the semen, so it has to be a balance of things. You know what I mean? But that's a high level thing. That is something that, yeah, why not try it? And I think it's a good thing. I think it's a positive thing. But just make sure that you're not just focused on you. You have to focus on your partner too and pleasing her. So that's the big part.
Yeah. Can you say a little bit more about, what you were saying when it comes to, don't go in with these expectations? And I think that's very key to touch on, because when we go into lovemaking and we have certain conversations in our minds, about how we want it to go and what's expected, not expected, performing, all kinds of things. How we look. For women, it's like the self-consciousness of like how your body looks. Does it like it? Does it turn him on? All of these things. And so, how do you? What would you say? Like, what has worked for you that makes a difference? And how do you leave those conversations out and actually really be present in the moment with another human being?
Yeah, well, I think all those things should be worked out way before, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, you should already feel comfortable around your partner. If you're not, then you're not at that stage where you feel 100. So I think those things have to be worked out beforehand. You should be like completely in the moment with your partner when you're ready to make love. And sometimes people it's a little too early. And you do it a little too early, you're gonna have these thoughts or concerns and stuff like that. But you'll know when it's the right time, because you just don't have those thoughts. You know what I mean? But I think, like you said, a lot of conversation has to be had. I think people need to take their time before they rush into a sexual relationship. Do you know what I mean? And I was just watching, like, Steve Harvey has that 90-day rule, and I get where he's coming from, to wait 90 days. You heard of that? 90 days to.
I haven't, and I don't really. I don't personally.
Yeah.
I don't personally believe that it's something that you set that some sort of like harsh rule as to this many days. Or for me, it is really about a spiritual connection.
Yeah.
And having deep conversation ahead of time, and just like there's something there that is beyond just the physical that you experience.
Right, right. But you have
right?
to be like spiritual to get to understand that. And I think for those who are not spiritual, they need like, oh, give me a plan, give me structure, give me rules.
Yes,
You know?
and you know, I would have to say a lot of conversations, a lot of asking questions, and like you said, like if you make love, or if you call it, if you have sex and you don't feel comfortable, and you as a woman are having these conversations in your head about,
Mhm.
like, did he like this, or should I do that, or or you don't feel comfortable asking for what you want. Ladies, ask
Right.
for what you want. Ask for what you want.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you don't
Or
feel
talk. I would, or say it, you may not have to ask, but just say it, can you
Yes,
do
just
this? Can you do
this is
that?
what I like. No, I don't like that. Can you do it like this? Can you do it like
Exactly.
that? Because
Exactly.
especially in the beginning, you're learning somebody's body.
Right. Right.
So if you don't feel comfortable, saying what pleasures you, if you feel uncomfortable being naked in front of someone, if you like, these are all things that red flags that tell you that maybe that connection is not necessarily there, or you need to have more conversations and clear all of that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. That should all be taken care of beforehand. You know what I mean? It's almost like, asking someone to marry you and then you finding out, have you been married before afterwards? Like that should be before. Like you got to have these things cleared out before you say, okay, this is time for us now to do that. And I always think it's better to wait, than not, especially if you're in
Mhm.
a relationship. If you're looking to have a relationship with somebody, I think it's always better to wait until you feel comfortable and that person feels comfortable. It's not just
Mhm.
you, you know what I mean? And you'll have that feeling. But I'm like you. I don't feel like you should put like a deadline or timeline on it. But I guess at the time, women needed something. The one thing I would say, I don't think one night stands are a good idea, or sleeping on the first date. That's something I would say is probably not a good idea. But anything else after that, you just gotta feel it out.
Mhm.
But I always think it's better to wait, and I always say that you better like the person you're sleeping with. I would say, I mean, that's really important. If you don't even like them, that's not good.
Yeah, and like, it goes well beyond the physical attractiveness, yeah,
Exactly.
that physical attraction, like meaning like their personality, like
Yeah,
what they're about,
yeah, like who they are, like
like who
that.
they are,
Yeah,
exactly.
because that doesn't change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything else does, but that will never change because they are who they are. So you have to really like that. Even if things don't work out, you can still be friends if you like the person
Hmm.
and you like who they are.
Hmm.
So I would get to that liking where you're like, oh, you know what? I really like this person. You know that's for me. That's even better than love. Because love comes and goes. People say I love you, and then after, I mean that changes. You know,
Hmm.
but when you really really like someone, that means you really like their character, like you said, the
Yeah.
person, who they stand for, and that should not change whether
Yeah.
you're with them or
To
not.
build that basis of that friendship.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and always try if you can when you break up with someone, have at least a friendship. Like leave off on good terms if you can.
Hmm.
That's really good thing too. You know.
Well, I find that allows you to then heal that and learn from that,
Yeah.
right? To move on to the next step, because we carry everything from the past, from our past relationships, and if we don't heal that, and if we don't learn from it, then it just moves on to the next relationship.
Right. Right. And everyone's here to teach us, and we learn and grow. So we
Yeah.
shouldn't be mad at them. We shouldn't be angry with them. So after you get off and you've done the work, it's good to say, hey, listen, just call in to say, I'm sorry how things went. I wish they could have gotten better. I hope that we can just remain friends. And when you say that, you don't have to call every week to say how you're doing. Just when you say
Mhm.
friends, meaning that we're cool, we're good. You know,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
really helpful. I've done that. Go in the past and just
Yeah.
say, hey, listen, let's talk about this, and then you feel good about it, both of you. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with you. I've done the same thing.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
powerful. It's very
It
powerful.
is. It's very powerful. And
Yeah,
sometimes, you just weren't meant to be in a relationship, but you become great friends.
absolutely. We there's a
Sometimes that happens.
we're destined. That the person you're
Yeah.
with may not be that person that your destiny has you paired up with, but they're
Hmm.
they're supposed to be there at that time because there are things you need to learn, and that's something we people need to understand is that everyone we meet, they say that we've made these contracts or we
Hmm.
made these agreements before we came here. Like there are no
Hmm.
coincidences.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we shouldn't be upset or angry with people. You know what I mean? We just have to take those lessons. Some of them could be hard lessons, but we
Yeah.
needed them. You know,
Yeah.
and we should be thanking them, not upset with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Um, can you touch on tantric sex?
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
you and I were talking about before, and it's something that, people throw around there. And I know Michelle Angel's watching, and she's a tantric master. So
Oh, wow. I love it. I love it. I really do feel like that's the next evolution for humanity in terms of sexuality.
uh-huh.
We should definitely get on board with Tantra. You know, it's just a different school of thinking in terms of
Hmm.
sexuality,
Hmm.
creating that bond, creating that union, you know, where two people are in sync with one another. I
Hmm.
think Tantra is a very powerful thing. People should definitely read up on it. You know, it's Indian philosophy. It's been around for a long, long time, and you know, it's wonderful. You know, because it's pleasurable. It's
Hmm.
exciting because there's so many different positions, and also it's one where it's mutually beneficial to both partners.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So we'll keep it at that, and we'll go deeper in the next time.
Yeah, and just to put something else in there, that's where the meditation comes in.
Hmm.
It is meditative. It goes at such a deeper level.
Right, right. Right. Well, you know, Kundalini is like a snake. It kind of
Yeah.
intertwines, you know, and when you can get those energies intertwined like that, male and
Hmm.
female, it's unbelievably powerful and healing as well. You know what I mean? It opens up all your chakras. And that's the way, like, that's the higher level of lovemaking. But you got to get there. You got to do the work first. You can't just start thinking about it and then just get there. And the work has to be done not only on your part, but you have to get a partner who's equal with you in that level. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's doing the work and continuously and is willing to do the work.
Absolutely, absolutely, and grow. You're not just growing, you know, communicatively or you know, in terms of your relationship, but you're also growing sexually as well. That's the key. You know, you
Yeah,
want to grow in
absolutely.
that aspect. Yeah.
Amazing. So, can you leave us with what is what are some things that men and women can do to become better lovers?
Okay. Good question. Good question. For men, if you're watching porn, stop. You know, I mean, like I said, I'm a therapist. I've had some clients who are addicted to porn. It is
Hmm.
addictive.
Hmm.
They've done CAT scans, and it shows and lights up the same area of the brain as drugs and anything else. So just really stop with the porn. Number one, if you are watching porn. I think number two is that men should probably hold off on having sex if they can until they can do some work on themselves to become a better person. And guys, they do. They have a lot of work to do. Sex is a distraction. When you're starting to do, you know, having sex, it's easy to distract yourself from doing the work, you know, because now that occupies your mind. So I would
Hmm.
say to take a sabbatical, go celibate for a little bit, and just kind of do the work. I think that will help men become better lovers, and also learn about women. Learn about, you know, I was
Yes.
well, I was like 14 years old when I thank God for my sister. I kind of went into her room and took her. If she's listening, Tammy, I'm sorry. I took her Woman's Anatomy book, and I was 14
Yes.
years old,
Oh my
and
gosh,
I
that is
and
like
I,
the best
and
book ever. Where is it?
I
Ladies, if you don't have this book, you must get it.
oh God, that's so funny.
Anthony, tell them.
I,
Isn't that like the most profound book?
oh, I learned so much at 14. I knew stuff that the other 14-year-olds had no clue of.
Guys, 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 go get this book
Yeah, yeah. It's not an easy
and read
read.
it.
It's not an easy read. It's a different world. You're entering a different world. You're gonna feel like, you know, you're talking a different language, but you just gotta hang in there and just keep reading and but then you really understand. So that's important to learn women, learn to understand women, you know, not just, you know, how to get them off, but really learn all about as much as you can. I know more about women's body than a lot of women do, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Part of that is because I am a therapist, but
yeah,
a lot of times it's like you just gotta learn, you know,
yeah.
just gotta study. For women, I think for them to be better lovers is that you got to take care of your stuff, man. You got to take care of your baggage. You got to take care of your issues, and before you start, you know, looking for a relationship, because what's going to happen is that you're going to attract someone who's going to expose those baggages and issues that you haven't taken care of. So if you
Hmm.
want to you want to do the work on your own versus in a relationship, because it's so much harder to do work when you're in a relationship. You know what I mean? Working on your own stuff.
Mm.
We don't always have the luxury. Some people may be, linked up with somebody right now and they know they have work to do. It doesn't stop you. But if you're not with someone and you're single, use this time to do the work on yourself. All right. Because that's going to attract a different type of person into your life where you won't have to learn those lessons from that person. So
can you give us a few things? Like what does it mean to do the work?
Doing the work, oh gosh, I know that's such a vague term, and I'm so used to it.
Can you break down, like, I know. Can you break down, like, just give us three things to start doing the work?
Okay. Number one is to go inside, all right, and to start looking at things you need to look at. We all know things that we need to look at, we refuse to look at, or we don't want to look at, or we just kind of pretend it's not there. It's time to start looking at.
So like negative habits and stuff like that, or?
Well, I mean, you could start with that. That's part of it, because that will lead to why. Because everything has a why. So let's say you're smoking, right, or you're drinking. There's a why behind that. You know what I mean? Maybe you're smoking because right now, that's helping you to stave off depression, or you don't feel good about yourself. Okay, why don't I feel good about myself? Well, I don't feel good about myself because I haven't felt good about myself since I was 12. Okay, so what happened when you were 12? Well, I was molested when I was 12. You know what I mean? So it's almost like reverse engineering. I guess that's a better word to say, reverse engineering, taking your life. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Look at your relationships and say, okay, why didn't these things work? And then working back from that place.
Yeah. Do a relationship assessment of your past relationships.
Absolutely. Self-realization, self-actualization, these things, go inside, and start working backwards. Your body and your subconscious mind, they'll tell you, they'll bring those things up. Don't worry. They're waiting for it to be healed. You know what I mean? You just have to have the guts to go in there and say, okay, I'm ready to face them. I'm ready to face my shadows. I'm ready to do work. But you can't do the work when, you're focused on someone else. You need that energy for yourself. So this is why I say to people, if you're single for a reason right now. Use that time to really start clearing things out. And keep doing it until there's hardly anything left to clear out. That's what I would say. That's what I call doing the work. But yeah, again, it's like, for me, it's so normal. Like, I just do the work.
Yeah, right. Just do the work.
Brene Brown, she talks about that. I don't know if you ever heard.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love Brene.
Yeah, if you want to know doing the work, start with that.
Yeah, I agree. And like for me, doing the work has a lot to do with learning to love oneself.
Okay.
And just going in and really really looking like what are the lies that we tell ourselves about ourselves? How are the ways that we sabotage ourselves?
Right.
Where is it that we haven't forgiven ourselves? All of these things, because they reveal the different experiences, traumas, things that have happened in our lives that we either need to forgive, resolve, get complete with, and then so that we could have the freedom to keep moving forward and then really embrace ourselves. Like radical acceptance of who we are as human beings.
Yep.
For me, I think that's a game changer. For me, that's what it looks like. Love oneself is to radically accept everything, our good, our bad, and our ugly, our light and our shadows, and be okay with it. Release the shame around it.
Yeah.
Because we all have it. I haven't met a perfect human being yet.
Well, we'll get into it. I mean, that's how it is. We create them as we go along. It's in our language. It's in our culture. It's in our society. I mean, that's just the way it is.
So thank you so much for being here. And we are going to have a part 2.
Yes.
We are going to get deeper into spiritual sex and tantra and all these other beautiful ways that we can really get connected with our partners.
Well, I love to talk about DNA and how that affects a woman through semen. I love to talk about, even like sex magic and like how powerful that is. So there's a lot of stuff we can go and get into.
Definitely. So we're definitely going to have you back.
Thank you. I had fun.
It's been amazing. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.
And everyone have an amazing night.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments, if you have any other questions, what you learned from tonight. Just let us know. Give us feedback.
Yeah. And thank you for watching, you guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you so much for watching.
you.
Peace.
Okay. Peace.
Love you all.
Love you.
Bye.